Well, just for the last part of our conference and for the rest of the time until 5:30, we have uh, we have with us final reflections by José Juan Ruiz, who is president of the Elcano Foundation. Elcano Foundation is one of the most important think tanks in Spain, maybe the most important, and he has been developing this think tank and led by so Juan Ruiz has been leading research on different topics, not only in Spain, but also in international politics, European politics, also issues of defense and security, and many other issues. So I think we are going to have José Juan Ruiz. He has been also, before that, he was chief economist of the Inter-American Development Bank in Washington, and before also chief economist of different banks in Spain. And he also is public servant of economist for the public administration in Spain. And he has going to share with us his reflections about most of the things we have been discussing today about these trends and challenges in global governance of the economy, of development, of finance, and also the implications for our country. So thank you very much for being with us, and the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacinto, for these introductions. Thank you, IBEI. Thank you, IBEI, for inviting me to be here and to try to share in the next 30 minutes my thoughts on what is going on the world economy and the world situation. Let me start, but making some strong statement, not as strong as Germain has already made, but a strong statement. People don't like economists. People don't look at the economists as they look at a football player or a poet or a doctor. They think we are boring people, selfish people, always involved in our estimates, projection, recommendation to cut expenditure. It's not true. In fact, economists, we are storytellers. And what I'm going to try to do in the next minutes is to try to tell you a story. We are, this is true, special storytellers. We are not allowed, if you are a well-trained economist, just to give all the power to imagination. You give the power to models and data. And this story, this methodology, impose on you constraints because you cannot tell what you want to do, what you want to tell. You have to tell people what come out from data and models and equation. And this is our curves. That is the economist curves, that we are really tied to data. And the first data I'm going to provide you, it's something very easy to understand. The most pressing problem we have is that we lack growth. If you look at what has happened in the last 25 years in the world economy, what you will see, just if you look at the numbers, is that global GDP growth has declined by a full percentage point. You can say, okay, GDP is not everything. That's true. But let us put aside this comment on GDP. But the real thing is that we are not growing as we were growing 30 years ago, 50 years ago. And this creates tension, this creates conflicts, this creates in people the need to try to reverse to the previous path of growth. There is a second problem. It's not just that we are growing less on a global way. The problem is that the distribution of this growth is fully asymmetric. Emerging countries are growing much more than developed countries, which is normal. You can explain that with economic theory, catching up. Yes. And this create some asymmetries that are very difficult to digest for some audience. But what you are reading in the newspaper, you are reading in the headlines of the news, in the blogs, in the network, social media, it's very easy. China was 50 years ago 3% of world GDP, and today it's 26%. United States were 32%, and today it's 24%. And if you open your scope, and instead of looking just to China and United States, you look at what is going on developed and emerging economies, what you see is that developed economies 50 years ago were something like 60% of total GDP, and today they are 40%. And this obviously means that emerging economies are now very, very far away. They are more important in terms of weight in GDP. This is important. And history has a lot of lessons of what it's the next step in this reasoning when one of the hegemons, United States, look at what is going on with the in the rest of the world and see that a plausible, a potential rival is emerging, and is emerging very fast. And this has been the case in the last 25 years. We have seen like China has been rising. United States has initially accepted, even help to this rise of China, but some way, in some moment of maybe the 80s, late 80s, late 90s, they began to have second thoughts. And these second thoughts has been growing very, very fast. Very fast until one very critical moment. If you want to be very synthetic of what is going on this rivalry, power rivalry between United States and China, the only thing you have to do is to go to the hearings for the confirmation of Mark Rubio in the Senate of United States. And there you will see in a single sentence what is really going on in the world economy. Mark Rubio say the world order is completely obsolete. That is fine. A lot of people can think that the world order is obsolete and has to be adapted to the economic realities I have explained 1 minute ago. But the second part of the sentence is the real problematic part. It's when Mark Rubio say the institution and rules of the old order have been weaponized by our allies and our rivals against us. This is the second part, when you see that the order that you created has been transformed as a weapon against your prosperity and your future. Because when this happened, the reaction in history of previous hegemons has always been the same, is destroy the old order, try to impose a new order. And this is what we are seeing today. The first interesting thing is that, or the other interesting thing, it's the following. When you try to recreate and build a new order, you need to think how you are going to negotiate with your rivals and with your allies. And the history also offers a lot of examples of what are the normal ways. The normal way is to go from a system of cooperation to a system of competition and coercion. Try to use all your power to make your allies and your rivals do things that they don't want to do. This is very interesting because underlying this chain in the way the hegemon, the leader of the hegemons, behaves, it's something that it's not so clear when you see and you look at the lot of things that we have in the news and information. What we are seeing, it's achieved from a system that believes in positive sum games. Cooperation is good, interdependence is good. Those countries that get the higher levels of interdependence are more efficient and more prosperous than the others. Zero-sum games. We are going to something completely opposite. We are going from the economy to power. We are not talking about growth, and that's the reason we are not growing as we grew in the past. We are talking about power. And power is not a zero-sum game. Power is a relative idea. If you want to have more power, someone in some place has to lose power, because the power, it's the amount of power is given. You cannot create power. And this is the most important thing that is happening in the world. Going from growth, from the economy, cooperation, to power, from zero, from positive sum games to a zero or negative sum game. Because if you look at what is happening, even today, some comments made by President Trump on the idea that, well, maybe tariffs are going to create scarcity. Tariffs maybe are going to increase prices. Maybe, and this is the quote, completely verbally verbatim quote, maybe girls are not going to have 30 dolls. Maybe they need just to be happy with 3. These are comments you can read today in the Washington Post. When you accept that you are winning the battle, even if you suffer losses, just because your rivals or your allies have heavier losses than you, the world has completely changed. We are talking about a completely different world. This is my first comment, and this is the way that we need to frame the conversation, to frame how the world order is changing, going from positive gains, prosperity, cooperation, interdependence, efficiency, things like that, and going to something that is more boris, more selfish, power, zero game, or negative games. That's initially you can think those games are irrational, but when you put this story on this framework, it's completely rational. If United States can stop the rising of China for 25 years, even if they are going to live worse than they live today, that's fine. That is a rational policy. We are going to support this policy. We are going to continue in this policy. This will be my first idea, just to make. If you want to read something that is not funny, but is interesting to read, go to Thucydides and Peloponnesian War, not about the Peloponnesian trap or Thucydides trap. No. My recommendation will be to go to the dialogues of Melanians. Melanians were an allies that has been allies of Sparta for nearly 300 years. At Athens general, go to the Melanian assembly and told them, change your alliance. Come with us. Come with Athens, the rising power. And Melonians say, why? We have been paying taxes to Spartan for 300 years. Things has been going well. Why we are going to change now? And the general say something that you must keep in your mind. Say, you didn't understand the new order. In the new order, the power countries, the power states, do whatever we can. And you, that are the weak countries, you suffer what you must. That's it's in a 3,000 years story what we are talking about. Powerful make a lot of things. Weakest allies, weakest rivals suffer what they deserve, quote unquote. Let's put this on an economic film. You have been talking about trade. Trade, of course, has been, for an economist, that is the way to increase efficiency and to produce growth and cooperation, innovation, competition. That is our tool since Adam Smith. And most of the time that you impose sanction or restriction on trade, what you get, it's losses of efficiency, losses of growth, losses of prosperity. And what you are saying today is that countries very badly exposed, very cruel way to expose these new industrial policies, these protectionist measures. People, countries, one after the other, are granting and are accepting tariffs and are signing agreements with United States in very bad terms, in my view. And the reason maybe is why they are doing that. Why? We are accepting to suffer what we must just because they want to be powerful. And the answer, again, comes with numbers. If you add the internal market of the United States and the internal market of China, 40% of export of all the other countries end in one of these two markets, either in China or in the United States. If you are a developed country, around 1/3 of your exports are directed to China or United States. If you are an emerging country, around 45% of your export end in United States or China. They are monopolic power. They can impose conditions because the economic cost of not accepting the new terms are so huge that your political constituencies are not going to accept a completely different result. You have to do why. And this is why we are so surprised looking at that, looking at how this chain is very transactional. You need to be transactional in this agreement. But my recommendation will be don't be fooled by tariffs or export restriction. This is just a very minor part of this story. This is not where the battle against for China and United States for the hegemony is going to be fought. This is not there. Remember my third data. Behind every dollar of trade, global trade, international trade, you have $7 of financial transaction. The financial economy is 7 times the real economy. And what in the real economy appears a balance or even a situation in which China has an advantage of United States, 1/3 of the industrial output of the world is produced in China. When you go to the financial system, to the financial side of the economy, is completely different. There is just one single financial market system in the world that is able to unite the world economy. And this system is the United States, the American, the gringo financial system. There is no other system in the world that can do that. And this is the dollar. The dollar weights in the economy. It's really over dominant. 80% of international reserves, more than 60% of all trade, world trade is transacted in dollars. Wealth, the big intermediates of financial is there. Just to give you a number to remember. The world current account deficits or superavits, that surplus, it's the same. It's something like $1.4 trillion. In order to keep balance the world, surplus and deficit countries needs to translate flows of financial resources and assets just to keep going this bicycle, financial or real economy bicycle. They need to interact. And the financial system of the United States process every year 1.3 trillions of the 1.4 trillions of imbalances. China is non-existent in this game. It doesn't exist. They have a not convertible currency, the yuan or renminbi. They have a closed capital account. They don't have rule of law. They don't have the logistic of lawyers, accountants, all the things that are built around a financial system. And this is something that cannot be changed in a chat. You need a very long time to build a new system. That is my strong assessment. Let's see, and I will bring to you, students, something that maybe you are studying in the university, in this extremely good university. My daughter studied here. I know the university well. Is the following. Do you remember something that is called the Hirschman Index, concentration index? This is the index that is used for all the lawyers and people dealing with M&As in the world. It looks how, when you have big shares of a market, how increase this share can destroy, erode competition and erode the welfare of consumers and producers. This is the way. What not so many people know is that Hirschman, the economist, create this index not for merger and acquisition. It create the index to show and to demonstrate why the Nazi economy has been so important and has attracted support during the 30s and the 20s. And his idea is very simple, but very, very convincingly. Its power doesn't grow in a linear way. Power grows in time like an exponential way. When you have very large shares of a market and you increase 1%, 2%, your power does not increase just 1%, 2%, can increase 20%, 25%. And this is extremely important when you look how the geopolitical is to take place. Because if you multiply by -1 this statement, power can be lost in an exponential way if you lose very, very small shares of your large market share. And That's the reason that China is working on the BRICS initiative, on banks initiative, on internal transaction, barter initiatives, because they have realized, they are very clever, they have realized that if they really want to be hegemons, they need to also be a challenge, a real competitor of the financial system. And this brings me to my fourth reasoning, that is, we are going to talk and to listen a lot about rare earth, tariffs, things like that. That are very important, very, very important. But the battle is going to be in the digital currencies. What we are going to see is this world of digital currencies, how develop. And you, as you can imagine, you are seeing in this world a completely different approach by the three major players. Genius is the new legislation adopted in the United States in July, in which more or less, in a very simplified way, allow private companies to issue currencies. And this is what you are going to have. Private companies that are competing with the dollar, with the Fed, and they are issuing digital currencies. You have, in the opposite way, you have China, which it's pushing a lot to create a completely centralized, stable currency linked to the assets of the Central Bank of China. This is the China model. Control, no private companies, no competition, one market controlled by ourselves. These are the two polar. And Europe, which is trying to create the digital euro with the European central banks in a system in which, well, you have many players, especially the banks, which are much more powerful here in Europe than the United States, that fear that if the central bank issue currencies, the deposit base that is now in the domestic financial banks are not going to be there, are going to be in the central bank, and this is going to increase and to make serious problems. Look at the battle in the digital currencies. It's not this story. So it's digital currencies, stable currencies, tokens, all the blockchain. It's not the crypto, the memes. That is a completely different thing. But there, I think, is going to be story. My fourth comment, or my final comment, it's to bring something that maybe people are not realizing, is demography. Demography is the most important thing. And I am going to try to build in the next 3 minutes my last block in my reasoning. If you go and see China from European eyes, from most people who now travel to China and remember what they saw 20 years ago, 10 years ago, they look deep sick, they look the incredible story which is there. They don't forget what is the real impressive thing, that they have taken out poverty 1,000 million people in 40 years, which is the real, very impressive thing in my view as an economist. People are looking China with fascination. And if you are European, with fatalism, because everything seems to work so perfectly well that it's nearly impossible to imagine how they are not going to be the hegemons that are going to dominate the world in which my grandchildren are going to live. Fatalism and fascination. Why fatalism? I invite you to take this index that you will find in internet, in the database of the university, this global index, whatever it is. I have compiled something like 45 index, human development, freedom house, political liberties, press liberty, GDP per capita, production, IT, technologies, whatever. Put together all these all these index and look at China, look at United States. If you weight this index by Oriental, by Occidental, Western values, China is the last, and you take 25 countries, the most important one, you will find that China is the last country when you weight these indicators by Western countries. The last. You add gender, the gender dimension, add xenophobia, whatever you want. Every time that you put an indicator that is near, is the indicator that you are used to get when someone asks you an analysis of a country. Well, but you look at 10, 15 indicators of this kind and you rank the countries. China, with Western weighting, is the last one. When you, the same indicator, are weighted by Oriental values, stability, growth, lack of shocks, is the first. And this, what really means to me, is that this is not a technical problem. It's a political problem. It's a value conflict. Values of Western and Oriental are completely orthogonal. They cannot be combined. They are completely opposed. I invite you to do something that is also in a practical way. There is in internet, you will find it, a small pamphlet, book that is called Decoding China. And the only thing they do in a very, very chirurgic way is to take 25, 30 ideas: friendship, love, freedom, growth, aid, things like that. And they take the Western meaning and they take the China meaning. And they document why they are explaining the China meaning in this way. And again, we are not going to be able to agree with them if the same words means so different concepts and values. And this was not important when China was a low-profile country, because they were not intent to change the world order. The world order was there. United States has not destroyed the old world order. We were different. Well, it's okay. We are different. But now, when you are rebuilding the world order, and China has shown in many, many occasions in the last years the desire to be a global provider of public goods, public rules, public institution, things change a lot. This is extremely important. It's something that means that we are not going to have an easy time. It's not going to reach a balanced equilibrium in the next years. My last point, just to try to give back you some optimism. I like a lot history, a lot. In fact, every time in my life I have increased my allocation of resource to history instead of allocating to economy theory. And one of the things I have discovered is the following. It's most of the experience in Western and Oriental empires who has become empires were based on three main important issues: demography, technology, and the costs and benefits of invading another country, the booting you can get when you invade the other. When you go to demography, uh, demography, it's really a very, very delicate issue. China today has 1.4 thousand million people, 1,400 million people. In the next 50 years, the census of the United Nations say that China will lose 740 million people. That means that China will be half of what the population that today has. This is due to many things. Fertility, as everywhere, is going down. It's now even lower than the Spanish fertility rate, that is 1.1. We are still 1% of a point above the fertility rate of Vatican City in Spain. China is below Vatican City, just 1/10 of a full percentage points. 740 million people, and the median of the age, the average, the median age of the population, it's going for 39 years today to 59 in the year 2075. And now let me ask you, have you seen in history an empire that wants to be an empire with people of 70 years? You don't have the stamina to be an empire. You don't have the power, the flows of people to military innovation, other activities. It's not possible. Therefore, here I think it's something. The United States is luckier. The United States has an increasing population of something like maybe 140 million, mostly due to immigration. You stop immigration, you are going to have a severe problem in this demographic fight that is going to be there. But this is not just United States and China. This is happening everywhere. In Latin America, if you look at the fertility rates, are declining very, very rapidly. Go to our World in Data, this web page in which you can find everything that you like. It's a wonderful web to have all the numbers. Tells a beautiful story. It took 100 years in the United Kingdom to go from families with more than 3 children to be below 3 children. From 1814 to 1914, 100 years. Iran has done the same in 9 years. And this is going down. The world is losing population. Our problem is we are going to be an 8 billion people, 9, but it's not because people are, we have more people in the world. It's that because we are going to live longer. It's an old world, and this means very important things. The second point that helps to explain how empires become empires is technology. Every empire has had a technology and energy source. This has been a constant in history. And you can say, okay, we have a lot of that. Technology, the disruption is here. We are going to have biotechnology. We are going to have artificial intelligence, quantitative information. That's true. Maybe we are going to have all that. But in the last 25 years, productivity is declining in all the world, as an aggregate. And the new technologies are not delivering by far the change in life and in power that brought electricity, railways, coal, oil. It's not happening. Today, you can see in Financial Times a beautiful chart that economists love. because it's a forecast in which you have it's not a bentail forecast, it's just a forecast. It's if artificial intelligence grows and deliver as the rate is now delivering, we will have 0.2% increase in total factor productivity per year. That's great. 0.2, it's okay. If it's extremely good, we will change and we will solve all the problems of the world. We will have plenty aid, we will make the change. We will be living in a happy world. And if fails, they will be the end of humanity. This is the, the standard deviation of the forecast that you can find today in Financial Times. Technology is there. And my last point. To be an empire means that when you conquer new territory, you have resources, you have a slave, you have oil, gold. You can steal the wealth of the other people who were living there before you arrived. What happens in this world in which 4/5 of total wealth are intangibles? You can invade Taiwan, for instance, but if engineers of TSCM left the country, you are not going to be able to continue producing the chips. You can try to invade some other place, and the software license or the customer, the Netflix subscribers, are going to disappear as soon as you impose control. The benefits of conquest risk to be below the cost of invading. And when you have this negative accountability, the question is, are we really reading well what is happening in the world? Are really right? Just looking at what's the only future possible. It's China is going to win, United States is going to win. They are going to be the two hegemons. The world is going to be fragmented in two areas. Maybe no. Maybe this is not going to happen. Maybe what you are going to have, it's a much more fragmented world, multipolar, in which these nations that don't believe my assertion that Putin is going to be lower than the cost try to militarize and to defend itself and increase the cost of being invaded. And what you are going to have is a large number of powers. Of course, United States and China will be dominating, but it's not going to be a play of two. The world is going to be much more than two games. And this is an opportunity for some areas. For Europe, of course, but for Latin America, for Africa, I think this is going to be much more interesting that we are being told that we are going to live in the world we are going to live. That will be my final point. I am not, well, I come from the illustration, the Enlightenment. I come from the 18th century. I believe in freedom. I believe in debates. I believe that press freedom, freedom of debate, ideas, innovation, change. And I don't think this is going to be completely eroded by these two guys that are now talking about immortality. Have you realized, by the way, that in the past, what we have were leaders that were mortal and countries that were immortal? And now it seems to me that we are going to see the other way around. As China declining demography proves, you are going to have countries that could be mortal and leaders that wants to be immortal. The only moment in history that this has happened is in the Greek mythology, when the gods were playing with the citizens. Thank you very much. It has been a pleasure.
So thank you very much for this very inspiring speech.